ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਤੋਂ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਜਦ ਉਹ ਸਥਿਤੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਜਾਏ ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ? ਕਿ ਬੀਅਰ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹ ਐਂਟਰੀ ਡਰੱਗ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਸਿਗਰਟ ਐਂਟਰੀ ਡਰੱਗ ਆ, ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫਿਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਆਪਣੀ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਦੱਸੋ।
My addiction started when I was about 15 years old, is when I started experimenting with alcohol. As I was growing up, I grew up in a house of a lot of abuse and anger and things like that. And, you know, as a young kid, there's only so much you can do. You know, you're a kid, can't really talk back to your parents or anything like that. So at that time, I was about 23 almost. Yeah, 23
When you
years.
realized this?
When I started to realize that, you know, I'm doing these heavy drugs and the heavy drinking, I realized at that time I was doing it, but I had no ambition to stop. So I had this childhood trauma that I could not let go of. You know, even as an adult, as a young adult, there was a small part of me that was always looking for my dad's approval, his love, his acceptance, you know, and things like that.
You still have a struggle that every day in the evening you're trying to stop yourself. I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to do any.
Not at all.
Today. No?
No, not at all.
The urge is gone.
The urge looking for the drugs, the urge looking for that drink is gone. But
The Harjinder Thin Show.
ਨਸ਼ੇ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਛੱਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੇ, ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਾਮਯਾਬੀ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੁਰਕਾਰ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਪਾ ਲਈ। ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਉੱਪਲ। ਉਹ ਪੇਸ਼ੇ ਦੇ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਲੌਂਗਸ਼ੋਰਮੈਨ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਇੱਕ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਹਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਮੂਲ ਦੇ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਟਰਗਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਕੀਤੀ ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿੱਤ ਪਾ ਲਈ। ਪਿਛਲੇ 5.5 ਸਾਲ ਤੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਨੂੰ ਟੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ। ਉਹਨੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਤਬਦੀਲ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਔਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਲੋਕ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਤਬਦੀਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ, ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਹੈ ਦੂਜੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੁਤਾਸਰ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ, ਦੂਜੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ, ਅਤੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇਸੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਸ਼ਾ ਮੁਕਤ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ। ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਤੋਂ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਜਦ ਉਹ ਸਥਿਤੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਜਾਏ ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ? ਅੱਜ ਇਹ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਉੱਪਲ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ, ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਜੀ।
thank you.
ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸੋ ਕਿ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਸਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਸ਼ਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਨਸ਼ਾ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗੇ? ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਐਂਟਰੀ ਵਾਲਾ ਨਸ਼ਾ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਈ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਬੀਅਰ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹ ਐਂਟਰੀ ਡਰੱਗ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਸਿਗਰਟ ਐਂਟਰੀ ਡਰੱਗ ਆ, ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫਿਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਆਪਣੀ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਦੱਸੋ।
Sure. I'm going to tell everyone my Punjabi is not the greatest, so if it's okay if I can speak back in English, if that's okay.
Let's talk.
My addiction started when I was about 15 years old, is when I started experimenting with alcohol. Normal teenage life, you know, hanging out with friends, trying to fit in, wasn't very an issue, but that was the gateway into other things. Alcohol is always the gateway into further problems. It always usually stems from alcohol, and cigarettes is also a contributing factor. The worst of my life started when I was, like I said, 15, is when I pretty much hit my breaking point. I grew up in a house of alcohol. My whole family drank. As you know, in the community, you know, grandparents, aunts, uncles, you know, cousins, everybody drinks. Every family social event is around alcohol. So it was just a very normal thing. You know, alcohol was like water for us. You know, it was not seen as a problem. As I was growing up, I grew up in a house of a lot of abuse and anger and things like that. And, you know, as a young kid, there's only so much you can do. You know, you're a kid, can't really talk back to your parents or anything like that. So I kind of suppressed a lot of things, you know, from a young age. When I got to high school, you know, that's when we started to kind of rebel and try to find our footstep in life. And I was trying to find where I fit in with my friends, with my family, things like that. And I kind of took it to the next level. As soon as I became socially accepted with my friends and peers, I wanted to make sure that I was the life of the party, because I did not feel that way when I was at home. I grew up in a very strict household. I was controlled quite a bit. And it was very difficult for me to express myself the way I wanted to. And so in high school, I kind of started to rebel a little bit, drinking and going out late at night and things like that. But it really started to take off after college. I went to school to become a paramedic in 2010, and I became a fully licensed primary care paramedic, government certified, everything. I was hired on Vancouver Island, and I had that for many years under my belt. When I was a paramedic, I did a lot of work and I saw a lot of things. And, I would come home to my mom and dad and say, Mom, Dad, I saw this today, and I saw, this overdose today, and I worked the downtown east side. I don't understand why people are doing this to themselves.
At that time, you were clean.
At that time, I was drinking, but I wasn't into like heavy drugs or anything. It was just the social drinking.
Drinking beer.
Drinking whiskey, things like that. Yeah. So, what we consider normal drinking is what I consider normal drinking. The weekends after work, you're stressed out, you have one or two drinks. It was to that level. So when I would see people suffering from addiction from my job, overdosing, things like that, seeing the same patients over and over, doing the same thing over and over, I never understood it. And I would get angry. I'm like, why are these people doing this to themselves? As time went on, the abuse at home got worse, and my mom almost lost her life, and alcohol was a contributing factor to that. And that happened when I was in my early 20s. I was engaged, I was supposed to get married and all that sort of stuff. And that whole scenario, after, my dad went to jail, and, my mom, basically became manic depressive. My sister and I have a 12-year gap. She was just getting into high school at the time. So our whole family's life got flipped upside down. Now, being the only son, there was a lot of pressure on me to hold the house together. As the man of the house, you need to take care of your mom. You need to be an example for your sister. You need to help financially. You need to do X, Y, and Z, a whole bunch of responsibilities at that time. So I lost my engagement because my drinking went really bad. And I was introduced to a heavier drug, which was cocaine. And the cocaine, I never in a million years experimented with heavy drugs. So, when somebody offered it to me, they said, this will really help with your depression. This will really help you kind of just forget about all your trauma. And I tried it, and I never looked back. And that one time I tried it led to almost 10 years of 7 days a week use. Because
you felt good.
I felt good. I felt like I could stop worrying about everybody else, because I didn't know at that time, as I was going through my paramedic to longshore career change. I was also a security guard. I was also leaving the paramedic scene, and I was still young. I was still a child for the most part. I wasn't a husband. I wasn't a father. I was a son and a brother. So I didn't know where my boundary was as far as how much I can help my mom emotionally, how much I can help my sister. And when I felt like I didn't know what to do, I would get angry. Right? So I'd start getting angry at my mom. I'd start getting angry at my sister. And the very person I swore to myself that I would not turn into or become because of my upbringing is who I was slowly turning into. So the shame and guilt of what had happened to me started to creep up, and I felt really bad about how I was treating my mom and sister. I felt really bad for even drinking more than I was. I felt really bad for